Hey everybody! It's me! Well, it's Daisy on most of my other things. Test number 101 is the channel name, but you know what? It's Daisy. It's Daisy Props. Hi everybody, it's Daisy Props. So today I'll be playing this visual novel a friend recommended to me. And, yeah, I'm just gonna be playing a visual novel. Thought I'd do a little series for the YouTube channel so it doesn't keep continuing to gather dust. Might do some other stuff in the future, but for now we're gonna do some visual novels. Furry ones, because I'm a degenerate. Of course I'm not putting on the NSFW mode, because there's a reason. Whatever. We're gonna keep it safe. We're keeping it clean. No gremlin hours. Anyway, enough stalling. I'm gonna start the novel. Yeah, let's go. Start the game. Across the sea you shall find the island of Crete, from which the tyrant Minos demanded tribute in the form of Athens' finest youth. Upon arrival they were sent to a foul location erected by Daedalus, the great architect. 'Twas a labyrinth in which lived the bull of Minos. The hybrid was conceived when the tyrant's wife, a once sacred nymph, was stricken by a lustful curse, making her take the bull's lurch. Don't mind me, I'm just checking something. The result was a monster called Asterion, half bull, half man. Having no place in nature, he took to consuming human flesh. He lived in the labyrinth, feeding off of Athenians, but among the sacrifices came a distinguished hero, Theseus, future king. The bright-eyed Athenian captivated the passions of Princess Ariadne, Ariana Grande, who revealed the secret to defeating the Minotaur. Later, the victorious prince's bronze sword shone splendidly under the sun, as he and the princess sailed away from Crete to Naxos. Prologue. The deed. You don't remember much about that night. Your travels had taken you far from home. You were halfway dead after all the nights tossing and turning under unfamiliar ceilings. It was 3 a.m., and it felt as if you hadn't slept in a proper bed for at least 2 nights. You were pulling all the spirit you had left to keep you going, grinding your mind to dust. But it would soon be over. You were close to home, just one more bus ride, one long enough for a good night's sleep. Until then, however, you had to keep yourself awake. You got up and set out to explore the station. The whole place was a sorry sight. It didn't have much, and what little it had was poorly maintained. The bathroom was an atrocious mess, the lobby's floors was stained with age, the asphalt on the terminals was cracking. Even so, it had been built to last, decorated with brutal obsidian pillars cut right out of the earth itself, and marble tiles polished into labyrinthine patterns. The walls were lined with statues in a grotesque style, their exaggerated expression locked in wide-eyed screams. The ceiling was covered with latticed reproductions of paintings. Michelangelo's, the creator of Adam, and, a bit up ahead, Picasso's Guernica. The lobby seemed to extend forever onwards, lined on either side by rows of closed-down stores. The elevator music playing from some unseen speaker was enough of a distraction to keep you going. A sudden crackling of static broke the song. You had found your way into a cafe, populated solely by an old radio and an even older gentleman. His skin was paper thin. He held a cup of coffee, and every time he sipped from it, his shaking hands would spill half the contents. The old man's glazed gaze passed over you a few dozen times before he realized you were there. As he looked at you, he patted the stool beside him and shook his hand in your direction. He poured a cup for you. You sit, hunched over the counter, and take a sip. A breeze of life pours over your face. You can't even register what it tastes like. You must know right then and there that you are alive and wide awake. You look to your side, to the old man. His face is contorted into some form of distress, lips quivering as his eyes dart to and fro. He puts a hand over each of his pockets, face still locked in fear, until his right hand falls over his breast pocket. He breathes a sigh of relief and looks at you. Let me check. That's... Oh gosh. Work with me here, game. Don't be silly. I want to check something real quick. I'm checking something. I'm checking something. Something. Okay, thing checked. He starts talking, but not in a language you understand. He's not even looking at you. His gaze wanders around with seemingly no goal, but eventually he finds a thread you can follow. You seem like a traveler type. You remind me of... Oh wait, that was the old dude. Gotta give him a voice. He hesitates, glances around, mulls over his words. Yes, you remind me of myself in my younger days. He looks ahead and takes a sip of his drink. You catch a glimmer in his eyes, a sudden wakefulness. I was a fool. Never settled down and squandered my one chance at a proper life. Felt the road would always take me in. I ended up throwing away the one place I could call a home. It's been rotting for who knows how long, and now I'm old. I always wondered if someone would ever take over and treat it right. Now, you do remind me of myself, but I wasn't a good man. Hopefully you don't have the mean streak I had. Well? I'm figuring things out. Wouldn't say I'm a great person or anything, but I suppose I'm finding my way. Is that so? I suppose that's as good as it gets. At least nowadays you can try. Back in my day, my father treated me like dirt, no one batted an eye. I saw that happen a lot too. I wasn't the only one. It made beasts out of my siblings and I, having a father like that. But don't you think I'm blaming him? You can only point the finger at your dad for so long, eh? At least eventually I found a way to make a living. How about you, young man? Have you found a calling? Actually, I pranked you guys. I actually played a little bit of this already, because I was streaming it instead of recording it. So, yeah, that was embarrassing. But, I actually, you can read all these if you want. I'll give you a few seconds. Humanities, leader, arts, math, tech. I chose math my first time, so I'm going to do that. I'm very talented with maths. I was never good with numbers, but I surely can respect a man who's acquainted with them. The old man rambles in the same language from before. Sometimes he'll stop and stare at you, as if he's expecting a response. A nod or a grunt is enough to get him going again. His voice becomes graver and deeper as the night goes on. It is soothing in a way, even if at times he'll again allude to having a rough, sorrowful past. Eventually, he stops, and his gaze seems to shine with lucidity once more. I must say, I am terribly sorry. I'm afraid I never asked for your name. So, I'm going to just put my actual name, because it sounds kind of old-timey, right? Joshua? Joshua. Yeah, it's like from the Bible. I don't actually know anything about history, so we're just going to go with my name, because it sounds kind of old. Glad I met you, Joshua. The old man's eyes become glazed again, and his hand starts shaking. Coffee spills everywhere, but it's gone cold already. You seem like a well-traveled man. Oh, traveling when I was young was so difficult. Now you can be on the other side of the globe in a day or two. Oh, how the world has changed. There was this one time I talked with my brother just about this topic. Back home, there was this vineyard where we spent so many summers. Eating and drinking. I remember it so well. It's like a moving picture. You know what he told me? That when we were young, there was so much wonder and magic around us. It's true. We could walk down the road, stony little thing from Roman times, and when we were children once or twice every week, we'd see ghosts rising from cairns and crosses to mingle about. But things have changed so much. I think it's the technology. Spirits and the arcane don't mix well with it. Or maybe it's something in the eyes. My brother, he used to say it's because mankind lacks piety nowadays. The unknown is not as frightful either. So much mystery has been lost. And so the bridge with the fantastical broke down. The old man freezes for a moment, then looks back to you. Oh, well, I was rambling again, was I? I'm so sorry. Don't worry about it. That's interesting to hear. Science is cool, but supernatural is cooler. Fantasy elements. I've seen a thing or two, which I can't see science ever explaining. The world is a more mysterious place than we like to think. Perhaps fantastical things aren't as common, but they manage to slip by the cracks every once in a while. Anyone who travels as much as I did will eventually stumble on something of this sort. Or perhaps the supernatural is still out there, speaking in whispers instead of speaking plainly. Whispers. You are quite a sensitive young man. There is humility in sensing how much there is out there, yet to be learned. Perhaps, yes, you seem good. Special. Perhaps you will do. Here, I'd like you to have this. I'm sure you'll take better care of it than I did. The old man takes an old piece of paper from his breast pocket and extends it to you. The deed for the place I told you about. The one I squandered. I'm old, tired. I would like someone to have it. I've been looking for an heir for a while now, and I don't quite feel like I have any more time to waste. Just take it. It's yours. A grandiose place. A hotel. Time's taking a toll, but you'll love it. Just please, take care of it. Be good. Give him a purpose. Him. You raise an eyebrow at him. Did this old man try to give you a hotel just like that? Now, who would do that? His wandering gaze betrays his senility. At times he seems outright confused, as if he didn't know how he got here in the first place. You can't take it. It wouldn't be right to take advantage of someone like him. And that's assuming that piece of paper is a deed. It might just be a used napkin with a nice seal. The old man's gaze wanders around. With his hand still extended, he squints his eyes at you, then looks down to the paper. He struggles to put his thoughts together, but for a brief moment, his expression grows firm and lucid. You must think I'm crazy, but please understand, this is my last chance to do it right. Just take the deed. The old man offers you a deed for a property. Do you accept? Why not? You give in to the old man's pleas. You're just accepting a piece of paper after all. It's probably nothing. If it indeed is something important, you can try returning it. You obtain the old deed. To check your items, open the menu and go to the items subscreen. An old deed given to you by an old man. Despite its age, the wax seal is recent. This old piece of parchment looks unimaginably ancient. Older than you, that's for sure. But the wax on it seems reasonably new. Perhaps even... Oh wait, I'm literally reading the old guy's voice. I'm great at reading. You break open the seal and examine the paper's contents. It's gibberish, written in an alphabet you've never seen before. Well, it seemed like this was all for nothing. You stick the deed in your jacket's pocket. You look back up to the old man. The corners of his mouth wrinkle, and he shakes ever so slightly. But his joy is short-lived. His gaze wanders once again. When his focus returns to you, he furrows his brow, taking in each of your features one at a time. The old man mumbles something to himself, takes a sip of his coffee, and smiles. You are a very kind young man, Joshua. He does remember your name, at least. You check your wristwatch, and the numbers 2 have turned into gibberish. You take it you've spent too long here. You collect your luggage, say your farewell to the old man, and thank him for the wonderful coffee. He subtly bows to you. No, Joshua. It is I who ought to be grateful. It was a pleasure dealing with you. Alright, and now I'm all caught up to where I was before I realized I was streaming like a dum-dum. You leave the cafe and make your way to the bus terminal. The station is deserted, save for a single man smoking a cigarette outside the cafe. You greet him with a nod, and he responds in kind. Aside from the old man, he's the only person you find, but maybe that ought to be expected at this time of night. You make your way through the empty station. There's no one to greet you at the boarding platform. The bus is so dark, you can barely make out the driver's silhouette. As soon as you sit down and recline, you try to process the night's events, but your thoughts skitter away. It's so hard to say for sure exactly how long you've been traveling. All the airports, truck stops, train stations, and ports mixed together. The restlessness of unending travel is the only constant. It doesn't take long for you to give up. A merciful warmth seeps from your chest as you fall asleep. Chapter 1. The Hotel.